It's a gorgeous day today, and it's finally a day without rain. So I'm going to take you with me while we go ahead and we figure out how do you find a distribution box when it's not accessible at the surface. And I'm going to show you what is a distribution box, how do you dig it up, what's it look like, and all that good stuff. So I'm going to take you with me to work today. So let's go ahead and get over to it. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to locate the tank, which is going to be right over here. We can see that we have our tank. We got the front, middle. These flags indicate our edges, and that is so that way we can figure out where the lid's going to be, which is going to be right there. It's important to know where that lid is, so if we can't find the trench, we can dig up the lid on the back of the tank, run a camera out to the box, and use a radio to find it. But I found the trenches beforehand, so let's go get this box located, dug up, and we'll go from there. So when I look in the yard, I know that the hill's kind of going this way. So that means that the trench has to run against it. So I've already found my trenches, and I've probed out. We got one right here, and then we got another one right here. From there, what we're able to do is we're able to hit the stone all the way back to the distribution box, which is going to be right here. And we know that because we're hitting the top of it. In Maryland, there's almost always a good chance that that distribution box is going to end up being in line with the first trench. So if you find both trenches, whichever one's closest to the tank is going to be your first trench. So from there, we just work our way back until eventually we hit the box. Now, what we need to do is we need to measure the edges of the box, dig it up, and see what does the inside of this box look like. So let's get over to it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to probe out this box. So we've already located the box. So now we just got to find the edges so we know where to dig. And we're just going to work our way around with this metal probe. So we got one edge. Now we work our way over here. There's another edge. Another edge. That's a rock. All right, so this is all four corners. Next, we just gotta get our tarp, remove the sod, dig down to this bad boy. We can see our clean out, so we know we're on it. That should be at the surface, but we got unlucky with this one. All right, that's all 4 edges dug up and exposed. Just have to get the hook and pop this bad boy off. Now we have the lid of the distribution box off. We can see our inlet line right there. That's going to be coming from the septic tank. And then we're going to have a drain field line there and here. What do these systems do, you might be asking? Well, the distribution box is designed to take the water from the tank, slow it down, and allow it to evenly disperse into the drain fields. That's why those black plugs are on the drain field lines are called speed levelers. It's to make it to where you can adjust the flow so it's evenly dispersing into both of the trenches. That white pipe on the box is designed so you can see into the box itself, but I guess somebody must have run it over with a lawnmower because it's kind of stuck through the lid a little bit. So we'll hammer that back out when we get done. But so far, so good. Now we run some water and we see what it does. Distribution boxes are pretty much common with just about every system that's been installed in the last, I don't know, probably 40 years. Almost every system since the 80s is going to have one. When do we decide to put a distribution box in? It's going to be whenever there are at least 2 pieces to your absorption system. So in this particular circumstance, we have 2 drain fields, so we need the distribution box in order to divert the water into either of these trenches. If you only had 1 trench, you don't need the distribution box. You could just have your tank, pipe, trench, or tank, pipe, dry well, whatever combination you want to go with. Most of these distribution boxes, from what I can see and having done this long enough, they usually last about 20 years. They're about yay big, and they're most commonly going to be about the size like we just saw, but sometimes they're 18 by 24, sometimes they're really big and they're 36 by 36. The really big ones, I'm not a huge fan of. The really big ones tend to seem to corrode a lot more quickly than the other ones do, and I usually will see that there are issues with root intrusion and all sorts of other not so fun things. This box is brand new because this system was installed 4 years ago, so it makes sense that we're not seeing any of those shenanigans, so that's good. You may be wondering, why am I digging up a box that's only a couple years old? Well, that's to make sure nothing changed. They are trying to make sure that nothing happened from the settlement of the ground to the usage. They want to make sure that everything is flowing correctly, and the only way to do that is to open the box. So we dug it up, and now here we are. How often should you be doing this? Generally speaking, you might want to have somebody take a real thorough look at your system every 10 or so years, because things do change, and if you have somebody giving a real thorough look, you're more likely to catch problems before they become major problems. There used to be a process called running in series or parallel that people used to use for septic systems, and essentially what that was before we would use distribution boxes, you would have your tank, pipe, trench, make a left or right, or you'd make a 90 degrees somewhere, and then you would basically go back to solid pipe, do it again, double back on yourself, and you would go back to trench. So you would have one leg that would be your primary, the overflow would be your secondary. But the problem with that style versus a distribution box is if the first one gets oversaturated or the drainage isn't quite going right, you might actually end up with surfacing sewage before you get a chance to even use the overflow pipe. That is very expensive and not what you want to have happen. The problem with this is you're wasting all that stone, money, time, and resources on a product that's not going to actually do its job. By having a distribution box, you're able to use both trenches at the same time and in theory get a concurrent failure. Obviously, you don't want things failing. Not what you want. Most of these septic systems only last about 30 or 40 years. I would say in practice, it's probably closer to 50, but they design them with 40 in mind. It's so that way you can live there the entirety of your life at your house and not have to worry about dealing with it. Now, obviously, they're going to put 2 additional absorption area space allocated on your property that's there for when it eventually fails, because you're never going to own your home forever. Somebody eventually will take ownership of it. So you have to have space for the new system. We only use one at a time, but eventually it'll get replaced. Distribution box failures tend to be one of my more common problems where they start to collapse. I would say the 3 most common that I run across are clogs, baffles, baffles distribution boxes, and it always just seems to be that those are the ones that only really make it about 20 years. So most homes, this house for example is much older than 2021, but they had to replace the box in the trenches because the original didn't quite work anymore. So now that we've done all that, let's go ahead, run some water, make sure everything's flowing, doing what it's supposed to do, and then put it all back. Everything looks pretty good, so now all we got to do is just clean that up a little bit, put the lid back on, fill in our hole, and tamp it on down. All right, there we go. Not my best work, but at least it's not a giant dirt hole in the middle of their yard. Every now and again, like I said, you have to get these things dug up to make sure that everything's working. If you enjoyed this, if you found this interesting in any way, hit that like button, hit subscribe, and until next time, guys,